Members, it's time and we have a quorum. I call to order the meeting. Item 1 on the agenda, confirmation of minutes of meeting. Minutes of the 20th meeting held on the 4th of May 2018. The minutes have been forwarded to members before the meeting. So far, no members have any comments on the minutes. Can I invite members to confirm the minutes, please? Confirmed. Item 2 on the agenda, matters arising. Report by the chairman on her meeting with the chief secretary for administration. There is nothing special to report. B. Dr. K.K. Kwok. On government officials being sent to this council not for official business. Perhaps it's not called surveillance, it's called monitoring or observing us, and I have strong views about that. I wonder if you had a chance to say that to the chief secretary first. If there's any respect for executive legislature relationship, this is not appropriate. Please be brief. Yes, because you're going to meet with him, so I want you to convey these messages to him. And secondly, now government resources should be used judiciously, instead of on a government paparazzi team. So this is an important matter. I hope to invite him to the House Committee for a meeting as soon as possible to discuss the matter. Later on, Ms. Claudia Mo is going to request the German debate under Rule 16.4. Dr. Kwok, please listen to me. Now, I believe members will be expressing their views on the matter, and the minutes the views will be noted in the minutes. And of course, your views have been noted by myself. That represents your views, Mr. James Toh. But that is of a different nature, because those views will not be noted for the chief secretary. It's only now if we raise it that there's a chance for you to convey the messages to him. Well, as I said, his views will be noted down and will be conveyed. Yes, please. So please don't confuse the matter as if we should all just leave till the item later on to discuss it, because that minutes may not go to the chief secretary. No, actually, it's not true. The whole minutes will be sent to him. But anyway, later on there'll be a chance for members to give their views on the paparazzi issue. So please note that. B. Medical Council election and appointment of lay members regulation. At the meeting of the House Committee on the 4th of May, we already consulted members. At that meeting, no members asked to set up a subcommittee. Dr. Pierre CHAN wrote on the 8th of May to say that he was out of town on the 4th of May, so he could not attend the House Committee meeting on that day. He asked that a subcommittee be set up on the regulation, and he would like the House Committee to consider his proposal today to set up a subcommittee and study the regulation in detail. Now, before I deal with Dr. Chan's proposal, may I remind members that there is a very tight schedule for the scrutiny of substantive legislation by way of negative vetting tabled at LegCo. If members wish to set up a subcommittee on a particular item, but he is not able to attend the relevant House Committee meeting, he could either ask other members to raise it on his behalf or inform the Secretariat in advance, so we could set up the Bills Subcommittee and start work as soon as possible. Now, going back to Dr. Pierre Chan's proposal to set up a subcommittee on the Medical Council election and appointment of lay members regulation. Any comments, please? Madam Chair, it's a matter for you to rule on. It's not really for the meeting to consider. Now, but I must remind you, this is setting a bad precedent. In future, everyone could do the same. That is that members don't attend meetings, but later on they come back and ask for Bills Committee or subcommittee to be set up. And I think that's in breach of our rules of procedure. Is also in breach of established procedures. Madam Chair, you are more than capable to make a ruling. So I don't think we should waste the time of this committee to consult us. Otherwise, it will just lead to an argument here. Well, I just want to inform members that in the past, when we decide whether to set up a subcommittee or bills committee, we always take a liberal approach. Put simply, as long as one member indicates the wish to set up a committee or bills committee, we'll do so unless there are not enough people to join. And there have been precedents of members coming back afterwards to ask for the setting up of a subcommittee or bills committee. So first of all, and can I ask members if there is any objection to this proposal? If not, then perhaps there is no need for you to speak on the subject. Mr. Kenneth Leung, are you on the issue? Of course, otherwise I wouldn't have pressed the button. Yes, as you said, Madam Chair, we've always taken a liberal approach in dealing with the setting of the subcommittee and bills committee. Yeah, now Dr. Chan was out of town for other engagements. And I believe this is an acceptable reason to most members. So if we have a consensus, I don't see why we can't deal with this in a liberal manner. Well, as I have already asked, I asked if anyone is opposed to the proposal, unless there is any objection, otherwise we won't discuss the matter further. May I remind members, the deadline for moving amendments to the regulation is the council meeting on the 30th of May. If the scrutiny period is extended, it will be extended to the council meeting on the 20th of June. May I ask if other members wish to join Dr. K.K. Kwok and Mr. Kenneth Leung? Clerk, please note that item 3 on the agenda, business arising from previous council meetings. A. Legal Service Division report on bill referred to the House Committee in accordance with Rule 54(4). Human Organ Transplant Amendment Bill 2018. Can I ask the legal advisor to take us through paper number LS 56/70 to 18 briefly, please? Thank you, Madam Chair. The bill is on provisions, is to set provisions on the organ transplant by under paired or pooled donation arrangement. The panel on health services was consulted on the 15th of January 2018. Members supported the proposal but also expressed certain concerns, so members may wish to consider setting up a bills committee. Members, do you wish to set up bills committee? Mr. Ray Chan has proposed a bills committee. Dr. K.K. Kwok and Dr. Helena Wong will join. B. Legal Service Division report on subsidiary legislation gazetted on the 4th of May 2018 and tabled in Council on the 9th of May 2018. May I invite the legal advisor to take us through paper number LS 57/70 to 18 briefly, please. Thank you, Madam Chair. This report covers 8 items of subsidiary legislation. LN 72 and 73. This is for 3 new tunnels to be subject to the Road Tunnels Government Ordinance. That is the Central Wan Chai Bypass Tunnel, the Chengshan Tunnel, and the Longshan Tunnel. These tunnels will be commissioned at the end of 2018, so there's need to amend certain provisions in the Road Tunnels Government Regulations to tie in with the commissioning of these 3 tunnels. The 2 LNs will come into operation on the 12th of July 2018. On the first and second LN, members, do you wish to set up a subcommittee, please? Dr. K.K. Kwok proposes a subcommittee. Anyone joining, please? Not yet, so Secretary, please circulate papers. Legal advisor, please continue. Yes, next one is LN 74. That is the Merchant Shipping Safety Gas Carriers Amendment Regulation. This is to give effect to the latest requirements set out in the International Code for Construction and Equipment of Ships Carrying Liquefied Gases in Bulk, adopted by the Marine Safety Committee. It will come into operation on the 9th of July 2018. Members, do you wish to set up a subcommittee, please, on the 3rd LN? No. Please continue. Next, LN 75 and 76 on control of chemicals and dangerous drugs. LN 75 adds 2 substances to Schedule 2 of the Control of Chemicals Ordinance so that they will be subject to the control measures and the control of a licensing scheme administered by the Customs and Excise Department. While the names of these substances are quite a mouthful, so please refer to the LSD report. And then LN 76 is to add 5 substances to Part 1 of the first schedule to the Dangerous Drugs Ordinance. So these substances will be considered dangerous drugs and subject to licensing control by the Department of Health. For these 5 substances, they have the effect of opium and marijuana. The 2 LNs will come into operation on the 6th of July 2018. Members, do you wish to set up a subcommittee on these items, please? No? Please continue, legal advisor. Yes, and next LN 77 and 78. They are to implement the relevant banking regulation of the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision. LN 77 is to amend the banking disclosure rules to implement certain disclosure requirements for authorized institutions set out in the document entitled Pillar 3 Disclosure Requirements Consolidated and Enhanced Framework issued by the BCBS. And for LN 78 is to amend the banking specification of Multilateral Development Bank notice to specify the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank as a new multilateral development bank. The LNs will come into operation on the 30th of June 2018. We're still considering the drafting aspects of the items. If necessary, we'll report further. Does any member wish to set up a subcommittee? Dr. K. Cross proposed a subcommittee, and Mr. Ron Chan will join. Last one, please. Yes, the last LN 79 is to appoint the 1st of July 2019 as the day on which Section 39(1)B and D of the Construction Workers Registration Ordinance expires. Now, this is to a transitional arrangement when the ordinance was first commenced. It's about the registration of registered skilled worker provisional, but by now few require such a registration. The government is proposing to withdraw this arrangement. Now, Mr. Ho Kai-ming proposes a subcommittee. Anyone wishing to join? Clerk, please circulate papers. If I may remind members, the deadline for moving amendments to these items of subsidiary legislation is the council meeting on the 6th of June. If there's any extension of scrutiny period, it will be the council meeting on the 27th of June. Item 4. Further business for the council meeting of the 16th of May 2018. Bills, resumption of debate on second reading, consideration by committee of the whole council and third reading. Inland Revenue Amendment Bill 2018. At the last meeting on the 4th of May, members raised no objection to the resumption of the second reading debate of the bill. Item 5 on the agenda, the Chief Executive's question time on the 23rd of May 2018. The Chief Executive's question time will be held from 11 to 11:30 a.m. The regular council meeting on the 23rd of May will follow immediately after the question time. Item 6 on the agenda, business for the council meeting of the 23rd of May 2018. A. Questions. 22 questions have been scheduled, including 6 oral and 16 written ones. B. Bill first reading and moving of second reading. Inland Revenue Amendment Bill 2018. The House Committee will consider the bill at its meeting on the 25th of May. C. Government's motion. No notice has been received yet. D. Members' motions. Motion under Rule 49B(1)(a) of the Rules of Procedure to be moved by Mrs. Regina Ip. The wordings have been forwarded to members on the 9th of May 2018 vide LC paper number CB(3579/17-18). Motion by Mr. Leung Chi-Chang on cross-boundary elderly care, and motion by Mr. Ma Fung Kwok on developing venues and creating room to support the development of local culture, arts, recreation and sports. If members wish to move amendments to the motions of Mr. Leung Chi-Chang or Mr. Ma Fung Kwok, the deadline for giving notice is the 15th of May, Tuesday. Members, please note that in the at the council meeting on the 9th of May, members' motions could not be dealt with. So all these motions would be carried forward to the council meeting on the 16th of May and subsequent meetings. Item 7, reports of bills, committees and subcommittees. Report of subcommittee on proposed senior judicial appointments. Dr. Priscilla Leung, chairman of the subcommittee, please. Thank you. The subcommittee has completed its deliberations on the appointment to the Court of Final Appeal CFA of the Honourable Mr. Justice Andrew Cheung Koi Nang as a permanent judge, the Honourable Mr. Justice Robert Tang Cheng as a non-permanent Hong Kong judge, and the Right Honourable the Baroness Brenda Hale of Richmond, Baroness Hale, and the Right Honourable Beverly McLachlan, PC, Ms. McLachlan, as non-permanent judges from other common law jurisdictions, CLMPJS. Members note that the 4 judges have profound judicial experience and are judges of high standing. The subcommittee supports the proposed appointments of the 4 judges. However, the subcommittee has received 60 submissions on the proposed appointments of Baroness Hale and Ms. McLachlan, expressing concerns about their strong stand in supporting lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender LGBT rights as well as same-sex marriage. There are worries that if they become CLNPJs, their values will be manifested in their future judgments in these cases and bring about serious impact upon the social values of Hong Kong. Some members have suggested a public hearing for the public to give their views on the matter. The subcommittee discussed whether public hearings should be held on judicial appointments and considered that the requirements to obtain the Legislative Council's endorsement of the recommendations of the Judicial Officer's Recommendation Commission, JORC, before appointment by the Chief Executive is a manifestation of the separation of powers and check and balance among the executive, legislature and the judiciary. The Legislative Council has substantial power on recommendations of the judicial appointments. If there are members who request a public hearing, the subcommittee may allow the request to be made and may deal with it. Holding public hearings is within the jurisdiction of the Legislative Council. However, some members and the administration are of the view that holding a public hearing only on the proposed appointment of the 2 overseas judges runs the risk of politicizing the appointment process and undermining judicial independence or the perception of it. As there was not a simple majority of members present in support of a hearing, the subcommittee has decided not to hold a public hearing. The subcommittee has asked the judiciary to provide written response to the views of deputations and individuals before the voting on the matter at the council meeting, so members could consider the response. The subcommittee considered the mechanism of the judiciary in handling bias in judicial proceedings for which there are public concerns involving the 2 overseas judges. Members' views were diverse. Many members were concerned with the stand of Baroness Hale and Ms. McLachlan in the handling of LGBT cases in the past. While these members did not object to the appointments, they pointed out that the 2 judges should refrain from sitting in CFA on LGBT rights cases to avoid bias on their part leading to major social controversies in Hong Kong. Some members asked questions on the criteria adopted by JORC when considering judicial appointments. Other members considered that any views or concerns on the judicial appointment mechanism should be taken up at the panel on administration of justice and legal services in future. The detailed discussion between the subcommittee and the administration is spelled out in the written report for members' information. After heated discussions, The subcommittee has raised no objection to the administration's intention to move a resolution to seek the Council's endorsement of the proposed appointments in accordance with Article 73(7) of the Basic Law at the Council meeting of the 30th of May 2018. Thank you, Dr. Priscilla Leung. Item 8 on the agenda. Yes, Dr. Junius Ho.
And Chair, I would like to express my views. And in LegCo, we're not a rubber stamp. And on the appointment of the judges, they have to go through 3 steps. First, it would have to be recommended by the judiciary, and followed by the appointment by the chief executive. And yes, LegCo and has their endorsement right. And Mr. Ho, please hang on. Because I was at the subcommittee meeting as well, I know there are different views. Now this is the House Committee meeting. The relevant subcommittee has concluded its work, and today the chairman of the subcommittee has reported on the proceedings of, and what are the differing views that could be debated at the council meeting, and at the House Committee level, we're not open to the floor to engage in another debate. So, Mr. Ho, if you hold differing views, please raise them at the council meeting. If you have a comment on the report, you can just have a concise views. I don't have any comment on the report, which is I just want to emphasize that the enforcement rights is important. So a public hearing and is a vital function. I hope that Mr. Dennis Kwok, please be concise. So and so Mr. Julius Ho's view is here no comment, so I don't have any views either. So I hope the members can understand that the House Committee deal with a lot of subcommittees report, and we can let the House Committee turning into another debate platform. And so if you have differing views and freely express them in the councils for the public to decide. And item number 8 on the position on the Bills Committee and subcommittees. Please members take note that as of 10th May, there are 9 Bills Committees in action, of which 1 continued the scrutiny 3 months into the commencement. And there are 10 subcommittees under House Committee, and 4 subcommittees under panel in action. And on the waiting list, there are 8 subcommittees on policy issues. Item number 9, request of Ms. Claudia Mo to seek the House Committee recommendation for the holding of an adjournment debate pursuant to Rule 16.4 of the Rules of Procedure at the Council meeting of 23rd May 2018 on the government's deployment of the so-called paparazzi at the Legislative Council complex to monitor members' whereabouts. I would first ask Ms. Claudia Mo to speak, and then other members to express their opinion. Ms. Mo, you have 2 minutes. I understand that whole thing as the government paparazzis are nothing new and been established practice we discussed at the LegCo Commission, and there are 13 members in the LegCo Commission. So we have 9 establishment members and 4 Democrat members. Of all kind of discussion and voting, the whole establishment camp would definitely have the upper hand, and this whole thing would get to nowhere. So this so-called government paparazzi is a seriously violate the independence of the legislature, and is also involved in wasting public money for a salary of 60,000 a month. So how many staff you're dispatching to LegCo? And you're also wasting the talent in the civil service, not especially targeting the civil service. That those who were protected in the paparazzi team, they were ordered by their bosses. They're just doing their job. They have a mouth to feed, or you can either do the job or quit. I talked to them. Most of them should just grimaced and to respond, which is unacceptable. And please don't equate this government paparazzi with the press paparazzi. The press paparazzi is working for the public right to know and working in the public interest, including trailing Virginia Yip going to the Central Liaison Office. And the government paparazzi works for the government, and they will not inform the public, and the public has no right to know, and there's no public interest involved. Because this administration is simply facilitating its own work, it's an authoritarian government, and for it to hope to reinforce its power to have its way. Your time is up, Ms. Mo. Mr. Lok Chung Hong, 1 minute, and so are other members. I think Mr. Ted Hui should treat Ms. Mo to yum cha sometime to protect Ted Hui, Ms. Mo, or to distract others. And I'm simply trying very hard. So the public have made its own mind on this. So for the we respect the public officers discharging their duties in LegCo. So this is a surveillance team, so-called. So they should have dignity in their work. I hope the members should stop using this term to describe our public officers in discharging the duties, including the chair. I hope that we can take notice. And the Privacy Commissioner has stated that have nothing to do with the privacy ordinance, and in order for the safe passage of the government bills and without compromising the voting intentions of the members, is quite reasonable. Therefore, I would not support Ms. Mo's motion. I've noted your comments, so I'm using this term because I have to read out the letter from Ms. Mo. However, I personally found this term derogative. Therefore, I will not using this term myself. Mr. Kerry Fan, in the basic law, please be quiet. Okay. Okay, let's recount. According to Article 62, Section 2, the government can appoint public officers to attend LegCo meetings and speak on the government's behalf. And that is the only mention in the basic law for the public officer to speak, which they will rely on this provision. So when the chief executive, speaking of this so-called government paparazzi, and went on a observe, actually this is simply sophistry, because the presence of the paparazzi is a interference of the executive arm on the legislature to monitor our behavior and to interfere with the operations of the LegCo and should be held accountable. The government should clearly give an account that how they dispatch this paparazzi to the LegCo complex and station, whether for the narcotics or the transport department or the health department. There should be account. Your time is up, Mr. Eddie Chu. So speaking of this, so I learned from Mr. Lok that this is called an around-the-clock surveillance team. So observing is different than surveillance. So the LegCo have an oversight of the administration, and now that we'll call it a round-the-clock surveillance team on LegCo. So that already be worthy of discussion. So is that the way the executive legislative relations should play out? So the tension is having this officers are walking out and about that led to the deterioration of the relations. For the police establishment claim, you claim if you are upright, you have nothing to fear about. So if you're being so upright, you can just disclose what information you obtained from us and make it public. So just to be transparent. Your time is up, Mr. Jeremy Tam. Please turn your microphone. Please start over. This is simply nothing new of this kind of surveillance. When I entered LegCo, I first found out, well, they're everywhere from the ground floor entrance at the car park, the first floor footbridge, and there's one in the escalators. So there are quite a few of them. So I was thinking, what's wrong with us. So I complained to the electrical securities. So the electrical staff are not civil servants. We help uphold their independence. So when I have a meeting at the CGO, can I bring all my first assistants and deploy them in different corners to keep tabs on the whereabouts of the government officials? This is simply disrespectful and etiquette, not respectful of electrical members. If some members don't mind being surveyed, there's their own freedom. Miss N. Chang, what does the saying goes that that claim that Ms. Mo claimed that should make the censure when the Saudi is not satisfied when the government sends a few more staff to LegCo. Why is the government doing that? Because they are afraid that the opposition camp that will call a filibuster or the call for a quorum that will lead to adjournment of the meeting. The meeting adjourned will affect policy making and the progress of the bills. So this is actually affecting government work. Of course, they're more concerned than you. If Ms. Mo is of the view that please don't do that, stop wasting public money, well, they should just stop filibustering. Well, just now, Carrie Fan mentioned that Article 62 of 6 of Basic Law, the court already had the judgment. There's no proof that the public officials have violated real procedures by entering the chamber or the administrative guidelines. So these accusations are baseless. Your time is up. Wait a minute. The few members would like Ms. Chang to clarify her statement just made, to elucidate. That have been already in the press, and a good friend is called judicial review for Article 62, bracket 6, and the court already laid down the ruling. Ms. Chang, your time is up. You can only elucidate. Mr. Yip Kenyon, and on the issue of so-called paparazzi or the so-called round-the-clock surveillance team, on this question, what is this? Nothing novel. And according to the former civil servants, he believed that he was the first generation of the paparazzi. So back in 1995, and due to the MPF bill, he was sent to the LegCo to keep tabs on the whereabouts of LegCo members. Such practice, back then, Mr. Sichowa of Democratic Party, as well as the past chairman of the HKPTU, have been criticized this practice, and I actually personally called this member and complain about it. So in the previous legislative year, the single permits, there were about 3,000. On your time's up. Last line. This so-called paparazzi are very hardworking. They have to drop their own work to come into LegCo. Next, Mr. Wong Kak-kin. From what I recall, at around 2012, there are more of such as civil servants coming to LegCo on duty. Why is this happening? Because the pandemic lawmakers are filibustering. They led to the adjournment of a lot of meetings that led to the impeded passage of the government bills. So having this arrangement to help to understand the tenets of the lawmakers and remind the pro-establishment camp that there's a risk of adjournment, and persuade them not to leave the LegCo complex. Besides ensuring that the important funding proposals and the government bills be passed, and the risk of adjournment has to reduce and save a lot of money. For every adjournment, there's a aborted meeting. There's actually compared to the cost of spending on civil servants.
Members, please. Order. Now, many members have complained to me that when someone is speaking, there are other members speaking their mind. This is not desirable. Members, please respect members who are speaking, whether or not you agree to what's being said. And you have also a chance to speak your views when it's your turn. So please, can I ask for your cooperation? Otherwise, it will be difficult for members who are speaking to give their views. And you will be the victim too, because if you disrupt others, others disrupt you too. And this, it's not a matter of the House rule, but rather it's for all of us to keep order at meetings. Mr. Ho Kai Ming. Ms. Claudia Mo said there's a waste of talent. That's true. But if there's no one trying deliberately to abort meetings, there's no need for the government to send staff to monitor our meetings throughout. Now, I don't see how members' voting inclination is affected in any way by the presence of these officers. If that's the case, then these members actually have to explain to the public why they would change the way they vote just because there are public officers next to them. So I don't follow their logic, especially that of Mr. Gary Fenn. And can I suggest to the Secretariat that perhaps there is a second channel of recording, so we can see which members are present and which are not in the chamber. So there could be a channel just on that, so maybe then there's no need for the government to send their talents to monitor the meeting. And then we'll see who are always absent and who cause abortion meetings. Mr. Muffin Kwok, let me ask why there is now the presence of such monitoring teams. That's because in the last term of the LegCo, members tried to stall discussion by making quorum calls so they could block government policies and so on. That's what's wasteful, really. And for these monitoring teams, they only focus on members who support the government in passing bills and motions. The Pan-Democrats are not their focus, really. Please quiet members. As members speaking, please do not shout from your seat. Otherwise, there's no way we could continue with our meeting, and this will also tarnish the image of this council. Please stop speaking from your seat. Mr. Muffin Kwok, please. Please continue. You give me the time I have. Yes. Now, no one wants to see abortion meetings. The public don't want that. We don't want that. And if someone tries deliberately to cause abortion meetings, and then there are these monitoring teams to remind members to go back to chamber, that's great help to safeguarding public resources. So I really thank them for their effort. Mr. Kenneth Leung. I think both the government and the Privacy Commissioner admits that these monitoring teams collect personal data of members, and these are personal data under the relevant legislation. Now, the Privacy Commissioner says that has nothing to do with privacy, but perhaps is rather vague. Now, there are over a dozen exemptions under the Privacy Personal Data Ordinance. So what is the basis of the view of the Commissioner? And also, when the government collects our personal data, the government has the duty to tell us how they will make use of the personal data and whether the data are accurate. They also need to tell us how long they keep the data. So this is what is allowed under the relevant legislation for data subject to ask. So that's why in this debate, we could also touch upon such basic issues. For members who wish to speak, please press the button as soon as possible, because I need to draw a line. I believe there will be different views and we may have to vote on that, so I need to allow time for that. Mr. Ted Hui. I think the House Committee should discuss the behavior of government paparazzi teams. These paparazzi teams of the government, what do they do in the LegCo complex? Now, if the government wants to lobby members on how they should vote on certain policy, they could call us, they could text us, but they have to use these paparazzis to monitor our movements. in achieving that purpose. It's more than about lobbying or explaining about government policy. So as a way to exert pressure on electoral members on the way they vote. So when we talk about separation of powers, it should be the electoral monitoring the government. How come it's now the other way around for the government to monitor members? So that's why there should be discussion at the House Committee to put things right, and that's in line with public interest. Please do not use the term paparazzi, which in Chinese means puppy teams, and I think puppies are cute. They are animals. So anyway, that's my personal view. Mr. Peter Shiu, since the Mr. Tong Chi-wa's days, we have now politically appointed officials. They are to introduce policies, and they need to lobby the support of members. Now, have there been many cases of such colleagues helping to monitor? Well, it's not at all until there were abortions meetings, quorum calls, and so on. That's only then that the government had to do something, because they have to make sure there is a quorum to vote on certain matters. Now, when there's an abortion meeting, the Democrats would criticize the government for not working hard enough to secure votes. So I don't think with the government officers there monitoring us, they are infringing upon our privacy. So I think we all know exactly who should be held responsible for this. Mr. Leung Yiu-chung. Well, if the pro-establishment camp members stay throughout the meetings, there won't be any abortion meetings, and motions could be passed. But the problem is because the pro-establishment camp is never there. That's why the government has to send officers to monitor them. And the government is there to ask the pro-establishment members to come to meeting. They never ask the Democrat members to come to meetings. So if it's a waste of talent, it's them wasting talent. They make the government do this. They make the government to send people to monitor them, and that's a fact. But my question for the Secretary General is this. You know, this complex belongs to members of this council. How come there are public officers performing duties here? They said openly that they're here to perform the duties, but the government officials are only to come to this complex to attend meetings and explain their policies and answer questions from members. They're not supposed to carry out duties of civil servants, and if they do so, is it against any rules of the council? Well, if you have questions for the SG, you could do so on another occasion. Here we're talking about whether we support an adjournment debate under Rule 16(4). Mr. Lam Cheuk Ting, what's your point of order? Well, just now you warned members not to interject while other members are speaking. Just now, when Mr. Leung Yiu-chung was speaking, Mr. Michael Luk and Dr. Hon CHAN interjected loudly, repeatedly, but then you did not use the same standard to warn them. So are you adopting double standards in the way you chair meetings? Mr. Lam, you have got it wrong entirely. I have been referring to members in general, and I was referring to past meetings. On many occasions, there were members speaking loudly while it's not their turn to speak. And I can point out any time. I don't want to name names. Just now, there were many members speaking as well when it's a turn of another member to speak. I think we all know that. Well, it's true. Just now, when some members spoke, the Democrats did interject. But then, when Mr. Leung Yiu-chung was speaking, there were many loyalists also trying to interject, but you did not rule them out of order. Well, it's a point of order. Yeah, you could have comment different views on the way I conduct meetings, or chair meetings. But I'm just saying that in the past, it's happened to both camps. It's not just now. It's just that just now, after Mr. Wong Kwok Kin spoke, I reminded members again. And after Mr. Leung Yiu-chung spoke, I was just about to make a reminder that already you raised a point of order. But I just want to point out that if it's just up to me to making a reminder. It doesn't serve any purpose, because even now when I'm speaking, you are trying to interject, and this has happened on many different occasions in past meetings. So please don't break the rule. Please don't let the public see this, because there were many such occasions in the past, and we cannot really deal with them with rules. We'll have to rely on members' discipline. Well, just now the opposition camp came up with all this suspicious argument. Ms. Claudio said some government officers just gave a rouse smile and whatever. But and they say they don't like the work, but I think we will have to do the same too to what you said. As it's been mentioned, we've got this mechanism all along, and we never had problem with them. But all of a sudden now it's become a serious issue, as Ms. Claudia put it. It's exactly because of the Ted Hui case. Obviously, you're trying to water down that incident. You're trying to shift focus. Just now, Mr. Hui explained why he used violence to snatch someone's phone. But really, that is not a reasonable excuse for you to use force and snatch someone's phone. Now, Mr. Lim Chung said you could all just sit tight. But I'm sorry, your time is up. Dr. K.K. Kwok. Why do we have such strong views? Our members have to block evil laws and white elephant projects. That's why we have to speak up in this council. And under the current distorted political system, the loyalists could make use of all rules of the council to do something that harms the public. So the government shouldn't be wasting public resources. It also shouldn't undermine mutual respect between the legislature and the executive. Now, if the loyalists don't listen to orders, they don't sit tight, then do something else, like this, the electronic shackles, and so on, to limit their movements. Your time's up. Dr. Helena Wong. Well, from this debate, we should have a proper debate at the council meeting on paparazzi. It's such a controversial matter. Since it is so controversial, so we should be debating it at the council. And that's why I support a debate at the council. The members of the Democratic Party have raised this issue on more than one occasion at the Electoral Commission, and there are still unresolved matters. First, the executive sending people to monitor the legislature throughout. I think that's against the basic law. The basic law says that it's the legislature that should monitor the executive, not the other way around, so it is unconstitutional. And then there's the question of privacy. In accordance with the Privacy Personal Data Ordinance, then we have to find out what information they collect and how long they keep it for, but they don't tell us. Mr. Ray Chan. Well, Mr. James Tan was right to say that in the past it was just the paparazzi was just checking on the loyalists. So that's how the paparazzis came about, because the loyalists did a good job serving the government. And so the paparazzis had to become like an alarm clock. They have to remind you to go to a meeting to make sure the meeting is not aborted, and so on. And then when the two camps are at odds, definitely I think the paparazzis would also collect the information on the Democrats. I'm sure that's the case. So if there's no problem, then you should either make public such information collected, or you allow us to set up the same paparazzi with the same duties and powers of the government paparazzi team, so we do exactly the same. Can we do it? Mr. Kwok, well, sometimes I find government colleagues having hard time. Sometimes they don't even get a chair, and I sometimes offer them a stool. Last week, I already said that for government officers, they don't take pictures, they don't follow us, they don't have any contact, so they are not at all the same as paparazzis. They shouldn't be described with such negative terms. And also, the FTU always supports same pay for same work. Now, Mr. Leong Yu Chung says that we can have the same pay but not the same work. So we must attend meetings, but they don't need to do it. And I think that's setting example for young people, for children. For members of certain seniority, please mind their behavior and the words. Ms. Alice Mack, as some members pointed out, there are government office colleagues having to monitor LESCO members. Why? Because there are people who always try to abort meetings or filibuster at meetings. And that's why the government needs to keep tab of the situation. It's like playing chess. You have to preempt the moves of your opponent. Charles, please, when I'm speaking, please shut up. When you speak, I don't disrupt you. Please continue. You know, they just like to do that. They always claim they are professionals, but honestly, where their manners are. That's why I always say people may be agitated, doesn't mean they have manners. This is exactly the kind. Now, can I ask the public following this debate on TV to realize why we have this situation? It's because there are people deliberately trying to disrupt order of our meetings. They want to abort meetings and so on.
Well, if you upright yourself, you have nothing to fear about. Well, in order to ensure the smooth proceedings of the council, why the pan-democratic camp so afraid? So the pan-democratic camp have been able to move in and out freely of the LESCO complex. So I don't think they're actually monitoring the opposing camp. You can go anywhere you like for any concerns about privacy. So for the 70 members here, we're all public figures, so it doesn't much privacy to talk about. So we have to be accountable to the public. So you want privacy, just go home. And you have a meeting here, we're all public figures. Do you all understand, Mr. Chen Kin-Paul? From what I know, I just want to ascertain whether the members are in the LESCO complex. They will have other information, and they will not get in the way of the members' work. And in other countries, this is all established practice. This is 2017 article from Origin Daily News and an article on Charles Mock. So if it's a consent of Israel, and they found in the parliament, they have all the screens of all the colors members' photos. They're showing different colors, showing whether the members are in the parliament or not. It claims that it can enhance the transparency of the attendance. So we all know that this information will be made public sooner or later. So let's not claim as privacy. Otherwise, the public will claim that you all try to shifting the spotlight into thinking that snatching mobile phones is the correct behavior. So stop wasting time discussing on we're supposed to be an established practice, the right thing to do. Mr. Lam Chuk Ting, so Mr. Ma Fong Kwok has been right. So the civil servants is to monitor the pro-establishment camp to ensure there are enough votes for the bill's in motion passage. That is true. So Alice Mack also had a good point. So when you're playing chess, both camps have their own strategy and considerations. The pro-establishment camp and the pan-democrats. And so we have opposing views on emotions that I'll take up to strategy, one about avoiding meetings or filibustering and so on, that's been used by Lau Como as well, that acknowledge that this is strategy adopted by the pro-establishment camp. So which have our own strategies. So for criticism, you are using ways in breach of the separation of powers to affect the operations of the legislature. That's unacceptable. And finally, I hope that Mr. Dr Hon can Mr. Lam Cheuk-ting urge Mr. Dr Hon to elucidate. So I suppose you can discuss in private, Mr. Junius Ho, Dr. Junius Ho, and Madam Chair, whether the public interest involved, I think it is such a case. However, for the monitoring, or what do you call it, paparazzi and so on, this is really out of public interest to monitor the members' performance. I have no problem with that. However, it is such urgency to engage in the debate. I don't think so. And for this matter, when such mechanism has been in place for over a decade, I simply cannot accept Ms. Claudia's motion to seek an adjournment debate, to seek to the debate on the paparazzi scheme. There's no urgency on that. If you were to make a complaint, we already have CCTVs in place. So it's fortunate that we have CCTVs capturing Ted Hui's act on camera. After I draw the line, there are 3 more members who would like to speak, who are Ms. Dr. Priscilla Leong, Chen Han-ben, and Charles Mock. I would only allow these 3 members to speak, then we put this to a vote. And Ms. Claudia Mo last 1 minute, otherwise we ran out of time. And Dr. Priscilla Leong, LegCo members' time entering and leaving legislature is not privacy, because this is a public record. If my memory serves me correctly, former legislator Emily Lau, that back in her days, the government, in order to avoid board meetings, they urged the members to return to the chamber. And maybe the government had grown despondent because there's no one to persuade the Democrat team to return to the meeting. So therefore, they would not be receiving messages or even contact them to return to the meeting. So maybe since they were so insistent not returning to the meeting, so please don't. Please, this with you despondent, you can notify both the pro-establishment camp and the pan-Democrats to the meeting. Mr. Chen Han-ben, whether you're working or not, whether in the electrical complex or not, is nothing private. Of course, there's some of the lawmakers would not like the public to know whether they're in electrical complex or working or not. So Mr. Kent Leung do care about his own privacy, because I think he has a lot to protect about. And Mr. Leung Yu-chung is very strange that it is the responsibility of pro-established camp to attend the meetings. Otherwise, you'll probably come back as a volunteer to work for free. I think paying the salaries is the obligation of the employers. So I found his statement quite strange. And the Ray Chan's logic is even more bizarre. So because we have a board meeting, that's why we have this monitoring teams working in LegCo. Your time's up. Mr. Charles Mock. I didn't plan to speak, however, when Mr. Chen kept on mentioned of me talking about the Israeli parliament, about showing which members is in the parliament. So I want to say a few things. First, that is decided by the parliament itself, but instead decided by the administration. So you're talking about they're being present or not in the parliament, instead of when they're going to the bathrooms and when in the meeting room and so on. So please don't mislead the public. Importantly, the public is able to see that the pro-established camp, besides saying the old tune repeatedly, claim that you're filibustering, wasting your time. They simply ran out of new arguments. So that's quite plain to see. However, the pro-establishment camp criticism, some of them are quite entertaining. But since that you're using this opportunity to criticize us, why can't we just have a German debate to give you more time opportunity to do so? And finally, can we have Ms. Claudia Mo to respond? And hang a minute, Mr. Chen Kinbo. So your as speech have misunderstood. The administration told me that they only take note of whether the members are in the election complex or not. I don't believe that they will keep tab of the members' time entering and leaving washrooms. I think you're already entering the debate whether do we need to have the government personnel stationing in Lechko. So to the question, we should focus on whether we support Macaulay Mo to hold a German debate pursuant to Rule 16.4 of the Rule of Procedure. I hope that we can all focus on that. Ms. Mo, we have 1 minute. So the government paparazzi wasting the civil service talent is a wide publicized fact. However, on the waste of public money on 2016-17, the Secretary have issued 3,000 public officials and permits, and including the principal officials and so on, coming to the panels and so on. Let's say there are 2,000 of those. So let's say they pay 60,000 a month, and how many hours they spend. So how much it costs in a month and per year? The government should give an account on that. And furthermore, for the same party, they seem to differing level of intelligence. I'm amazed that Dr Hon claimed that these monitoring teams are actually a good thing, though they are welcome the presence to keep tabs on the lawmakers. So all paparazzi listen up. So Mr. Dr Hon do welcome them. So Ho Kai Ming is a bit better. So let's just put it on the public TV live broadcast instead. So I think to have all differing views on this request for a German debate, I suggest that we put this to a vote. Let's call a division. The bell will be rung for 5 minutes. Ms. Claudia Mo, you have raised the point of order. I just have a comment to make. One, not a complaint. You claim that the name term paparazzi in Chinese 狗仔 is insult to dogs. So does mean that the thing they are lower than dogs. I think this showed a lack of linguistic knowledge. Ms. Mo, I only allowed members to raise a point of order. It's a well-intended advice. Please don't put your words into others' mouth. Well, if you listen to the recording, is that because I agree, dogs are lovely, but I didn't say the other things. Either you can clarify. I'm not here debating with you. Please stop speaking. Voting begins. Agenda item number 9, request of Ms. Claudia Mo to seek the House Committee's recommendation for the holding of a German debate pursuant to Rule 16.4 of the Rules of Procedure. And please press the white attendance button. Before I announce to stop voting, please check your vote. If there are no other questions, voting has stopped. And please show the results. And 52 present, 19 for, 32 against, 0 abstentions. And this recommendation is rejected. And there are no other business. The meeting is adjourned.